A new book out soon by Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch outlines his judicial philosophy as well as outlining ways to improve the current justice system in America. One America's Jack Posobiec spoke to both co-authors of that book.
Very excited to welcome here to One America News for the first time Janie Nitza, the co-author of the book A Republic If You Can Keep It, with Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, who you also were a former law clerk for. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. I was a former law clerk to him twice, once in the 10th Circuit and then once in the Supreme Court when he was appointed.
What is that like, being a law clerk for someone like that?
It's incredible. I mean, it's incredible both from the standpoint, I think, of any law clerk would say, to see sort of some of the inner workings of how the sausage is made, but also to work with him in particular because he's been just such a fantastic boss and mentor to me and for all clerks.
What would you say kind of sets him apart?
I think the close relationships that he develops with his clerks in terms of sort of mentorships. I clerked for him sort of 10 years apart, and for the duration of the 10 years, I would call him sort of any juncture of my career.
Tell me a little bit more about this book. What led to the book, and what is the overall thesis of it?
Sure. So the thesis, as the title would suggest, is that we have a republic, but it is for all of us to keep the republic going for generations to come. And Justice is fond of saying that we really have sort of the greatest government that the world has ever seen, but it is not self-sustaining. And so the book talks about both sort of the facets of government that need to hold true to continue the republic. So he talks a lot about the separation of powers, which is separation between Congress, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. But he also talks about the personal habits that sort of undergird a free people that need to be present for the republic to continue. Virtues such as civics, civic education, civility, just basic things like respect and kindness to other people, public service, things of that sort.
What are some of the things that he identified in terms of the separation of powers that you saw in the book?
And I think in the last, let's say, 30, 40 years, really at the pressing of then Judge Bork and then Justice Scalia, there's been a lot of attention paid in the legal community to the lines between the legislative branch and the judicial branch, and having judges really stay in their lane, which is to rule fairly and impartially what the law is, and not create law, which is the province of the congressional branch.
And now, when Justice, and in the book, when you're talking about always turning back to the Constitution, what did the Constitution say? What did it mean? This is referred to essentially as originalism, isn't that right?
That's right. Well, so originalism is the idea that as a judge, it's your job not to supplant the people's will. And so it's your job to look at the law, be it the Constitution or a statute, and determine what was the meaning at the time that the words were written. And the idea, again, goes back to democratic legitimacy, that if you have, say, a judge who is seeking to sort of, say, evolve the law, that you're losing the people's will, because then it's what the judge thinks the law should be, not what the people originally wanted and passed.
One thing that, an interesting topic that I noted was in the book was the idea of access to justice. If you could walk me through a little bit what that means and what the issue is there specifically.
Sure. Well, access to justice has a lot of different facets, but I think the basic of it is an average person can't just walk into a law firm and afford a lawyer. The cost of a lawyer is very expensive today, and there's a lot of reasons for that. As we talk about in the book, one reason might be that every lawyer has to spend 3 years in law school paying a very high tuition. And we talk about other sorts of ethical rules which prohibit non-lawyer investments in law firms. And, that restricts the supply. It increases prices. You can't just walk into a Walmart and hire a lawyer. But you can walk into Walmart and get, very good services, dental services, for pretty cheap. Another thing is that going to court has become almost impossible. 97+% of cases are either settled or heard in the criminal context, just a plea bargain, an agreement with the prosecutors to spend a certain amount of time in jail instead of going to a jury trial. And Justice Gorsuch has written some opinions questioning the precedents which have eroded the right to a jury trial.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.